All right. So the training call this morning is about my 4-step appointment process and the different questions that I ask. And I've listened to a lot of recordings of my previous appointments and actually put this on paper for today. And I'm going to email it out to everyone as soon as the call is over. And so the questions that you hear me go on appointments with and the things that I actually say when I'm on an appointment, I've put most of it actually on paper. I mean, you can't, put on paper, the introduction, being excited to see them and actually warming them up and not just running to the table. And so we're going to walk through each step of this 4-step in-home appointment process. And if you have any questions, please stop me along the way. If you want to ask me why I say this or why I don't say this, or if you've seen me say something extra that I don't have on here, remind me and we'll add it. So the first part is always the warm-up. And to start off the warm-up, obviously I introduce myself, but I always compliment the client starting off on a vehicle or their home or the fact of their personality. Or I find a way to compliment them and thank them. Find a way to compliment them, and I also move on to thank them. Hey, thank you very much for taking the time to visit with us. We're really looking forward to getting to know you. So you always compliment them and thank them. Would you guys agree that that's something I always do when I walk in a home? Good. And then during the warm-up, there's certain questions I always tend to ask. It's not 100% scripted, but I'm asking them about how long have you lived here? Well, I've lived here about 20 years. Are you originally from here? And you can take some notes. Again, I'm going to actually email this out to everyone. But I ask them, how long have you lived here? Well, I've lived here about 20 years. Well, are you originally from here? No, I'm actually from California. Okay, well, great. Well, and so you're just carrying a conversation at that point. You can't really script that too much because every conversation is going to be different. Well, what brought you here from California? Which do you like better? And so there's lots of questions you can ask just to warm them up, kind of build some chemistry, build some trust, and really get to know the prospect and, let them know that we're not just here to sell them and that we do, bless you, and that we do care about them as an individual and as a person. So some of the things that I always ask is about their area. About the weather, about their family, about their work, what they do for fun as far as recreation. I don't do this, but there's a word that a gentleman gave me a long time ago, and it's called form, F-O-R-M, and it's for warming someone up. I don't use the M because I don't dive into my message that soon. But some people have been known to use the word form for warming someone up. Family, occupation, recreation, and message. I don't dive into my message that soon because of the way I run my appointment. I'm not there to simply throw a lot of information on them or tell them all about ourselves before we really get to know them or before we really get to know what they want. And so, I might tell them that we're independent and we represent over 100 different companies and what we have to offer will be the best for them and that kind of thing. I'll sprinkle that in throughout, obviously, but any questions on warm-up or how to warm someone up, the questions that I ask, everyone's warm-up will be different. And so that part of the process will be different from agent to agent. Any questions on that so far? Okay. The second step is fact-finding. And during the fact-finding section, there's 4 things that we're trying to learn or figure out. The first one is what they need. The second is want. The third is what can they afford. And the fourth one is how's their health. So need, want, afford, and health. And I'm generally finding out those things in that order. The question that, again, those 4 things that we're finding out if we don't find these 4 things out, we may make the sale, but it's going to make it more challenging and more difficult to actually make the sale. If we don't know what they need, what they want, how much they can afford, and how their health is, it's going to make it difficult. So those are the 4 things I'm always finding out. The first question, if I go to a life insurance lead, the first question that and the way I transition from the warm-up into actually fact-finding is I say, what got you thinking about life insurance? It's an open-ended question. It allows them to talk and tell us why we're there. If we don't know why we're there, or what their hot button is, or what is the reason for them doing this, then we cannot make the sale. We need to know a reason, and there's always a reason. Sometimes they'll say, well, my reason is I'm getting old, and I need something for burial and final expenses. And if that's the case, that's fine. We can certainly help with that. And so, what got you thinking about life insurance? And then, what's the purpose of this coverage? Is it to cover burial and final expenses, a mortgage, debt? Do you want to leave money to your family? You want to pay off credit cards? What's the purpose of this? And in your eyes, what would you like for this to do for you? In a perfect world, when you pass away, what do you want to see happen with that money? And so you're asking questions to dive in to see what they need and what they want. That's the first section of this. Then I'll ask, how much coverage do you feel like you need? Some people don't do this, but I even ask them who they want their beneficiary to be. I want them to assume that they're going to put this in place today. So I'm asking them, who do you want your beneficiary to be? And I do that at almost every appointment ahead of time because, am I right, Tom? Mm-hmm. Am I right, Ted? Mm-hmm. Because I want them to go ahead and start thinking of that person receiving the money. I also ask them, as far as the afford, what they can afford, what can you afford to spend on a monthly basis? It's short, it's sweet, it's to the point. I'm smiling when I ask them this, and then I wait for them to respond.
I was amazed last week because we asked this woman what could she afford, and she was spending like $42 a month on a term policy that was about to go out. And she said a little bit more than what she was spending now. And we threw down 3 options. One was $58, one was $59, one was $111. And a little bit more to her was $111.
Yeah.
So that was a real lesson to me, not to be afraid to, her need and her want was $111. Her afford was a little bit more. Her a little bit more was a lot different than my a little bit more.
Yeah, it wasn't $10, 25% of what she was paying. It was actually triple what she was paying because in her eyes it was only an increase of $70 or so, $60, $70. And so that's a good point. That brings me to, when you're asking this question, every house will be different. And we never want to think of buying this with our wallet. Just because we can't afford $2,000 a month of life insurance premium doesn't mean that they cannot. Or just because we can't afford $150 a month final expense policy doesn't mean that that's not what they need and want and what they can actually afford. And so that's why, I'll get to that in presenting and closing, but that's why I asked this question. Sometimes they might say, well, I can afford to spend $50, but then when they see what they want and what they need, they say, well, I can afford, I can do that, I can do the 75. I'm comfortable with that. And so, what they tell you might be a small smoke screen and might not actually be what they choose, but we still want to see what we think they can afford so we can give them some options to allow them to pick one. So, the next question, the next part of this is health. I always find out, I ask them, how's your health? It's a real short, 3-worded question. How's your health? Do you take any medications? Have you ever been diagnosed with cancer, heart attack, stroke, diabetes, COPD? And all this will be on here. But what's your height and weight? What's your age and date of birth? Do you use any tobacco? Is there anything else health-wise that I don't know about? Have you had any surgeries? And so you're really diving in to how their health is. If we don't get a full synopsis of their health, if we do a final expense policy and they get declined over the phone, or they get rated up, or they get offered a different product within that company, it can really it can make it much more challenging to close and get the business. So if we do a really good job of actually field underwriting and getting their health history and a real synopsis of their general health, it will help us close down the road. So, again, I'm asking them, I've got all this on paper, but how's your health? You take any meds? You ever been diagnosed with cancer, heart attack, stroke, diabetes, or COPD? What's your height and weight? How old are you? Do you use any tobacco, smoke, or chew? Anything else health-wise? Any surgeries? So the portion of that, and you can add questions that you like, or you could even, I wouldn't really start taking too many questions away, but because this does work. But that fact-finding section is based on what they need, want, can afford, and their health. Any questions on this middle fact-finding section? Frank, Jeff, Vicky, you follow me so far?
Yeah.
Okay. Good. If you guys have any questions, please jump in at any time. And again, I'm going to email this to everyone that's a part of the mentorship program once we get off the call. So, Tim, Ted, Tom, Lowell.
Well, any automatic triggers that they're going to need to be graded? I know you've mentioned a couple to me in the past.
Yes, I've got that in the presenting and closing session. That's a phenomenal lead-in. And so the next section is present and close. And so yes, according to their health and according to what they say, we'll be able to choose an option for them. And so in the presenting and closing, you're wanting to find the 3 best quotes for them. You're wanting to show them the 5 benefits. You're wanting to give them 3 options, which is the quotes. And you're wanting to get a decision every step of the way. So once we did our fact finding, we found out if they needed $50,000 or less of whole life. If that's the case, then I've got on here would be using elder care. And if they can answer health questions, we're going to write either Foresters or United Home. And they're going to be using we can use the final expense quote engine on our phone or on the computer to run those rates. That's if they can answer health questions that are on those applications. If they can answer the health questions, we're going to write either Foresters or United Home, whichever we prefer to write. Their premium prices and premiums are pretty close. If they're unhealthy, and we know that they are in bad health and they've had cancer, heart attack, or stroke in the last 2 years, or they have COPD or something like that, then if they're unhealthy, we're going to use either Gerber or Great Western. For Gerber, you're going to use. They have an actual mobile app, an actual app on the App Store where you can run Gerber rates. So we're going to either use the app or we're going to use a rate sheet. For Great Western, we're going to use the rate sheet instead of the app. So Gerber, you can use app or rate sheet, and Great Western, you can use the rate sheet. So this is if they're unhealthy, you're going to use Gerber or Great Western. If they want whole life, we're going to use either Foresters, United Home, Gerber, or Great Western, depending on their health. If they're healthy, the first 2 options. If they're unhealthy, the last 2 options. So, and all this is on this sheet. If they want $50,000 or more of term or guaranteed universal life, we're going to use the First Heartland term quote engine to run the rates, and we're going to use either American General or Protective. Very, very simple. It'd be very simple for you to figure out what they need and actually run a rate quote for them. Very, very easy. Any questions so far on this portion right now? We're just...
Yeah, Cody, Frank, with just a quick question.
Yes, sir. Shoot.
You know, one of the concerns that I think that everyone will have is that, and I understand the value of the simple model that we want to use. You know, I don't know. Are you with me?
Well, you were cutting out. I can hear you now.
Okay. But how would how would the individual, I guess, prospective client know, if we use this model, that it's the best rate for them? Are these actuarially determined to be about the same? Have you already kind of done your research, Cody, and said that these are the best prices?
Exactly. That's why we use these companies for the mentorship program.
This is Tom. When you go and you start putting quotes through, you'll see on a regular basis, United Home, Foresters, American General, they're right there at the top every single time. Does someone else on occasion fly in for $2 less? Maybe, but it's not like we're selling something for $76 and they can get it somewhere else for $46. This next company who comes in that doesn't pay as well and doesn't have as good a product might come in $2 or $3 cheaper. I see that, but that.
And Cody, how do you counter that? Just out of curiosity.
How do you counter?
Someone that says, "Well, there's a lower bid out there somewhere." I mean, not while we're on the subject. What do they?
Well, then we're going to find out who it's with, and then what type of product they sell. Like, for instance, Ted and I were in, I don't know where it was the other day, but we were, I think it was up in Buffalo or somewhere, but they had been looking at Globe, they had been looking at AARP, they had been looking at, a bunch of different guaranteed issue policies. And the one they were looking at was AARP's little 5-year term. And the price goes up every 5 years. And most clients don't know that. Or it could be an accident policy, And so we've got to find out exactly what they are looking at and how it compares to our product. Because our products are whole life to age 100. The price is locked in and never goes up. A lot of our policies pay double for an accident. They build cash value, and they get a local agent. Well, other policies are looking at, they may not always get those things. So we would compare. We would show them the value of having the benefits that our policies have to offer. That's a great question.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So after we determine their quotes and we actually write down the 3 best quotes for them on a piece of paper, then we go over the 5 benefits, I just mentioned them, the 5 benefits of the policies that we offer. I did put them on this sheet because some of the agents have struggled to remember which ones I use and what order. But when I go over these 5 benefits, I go over them one at a time. I don't write them all 5 down at once. I go through them one by one and explain each benefit. And the benefits do change depending on the type of policies they purchase, but I let them know that. And so I'm going over the 5 benefits. I figured out the three best quotes for them. I've written them on a piece of paper. So say they want to spend $50 a month, and they think they need 10 to 15,000 of coverage. Well, if 10,000 is 45, 12,000 is 50, and 15,000 is 60, well, I'm going to give them those 3 options. I'm going to give them a low, a middle, and a high. Something below what they're wanting, or what they think they need. Something about in that sweet spot of need, want, and price, and something a little more than what they need, want, or can afford. Just to test them, just to see what they're most comfortable with. So then after I've written down 3 quotes, I don't show them the 3 quotes yet. I go over the 5 benefits of the policies that we offer first. I go over the coverage is locked in. Because I can say that whether it's a whole life or it's a term. Our coverage is locked in and doesn't change for the life of that policy. If it's a term, it doesn't change for 20 years. If it's a whole life, it doesn't change at all. So there's the coverage is locked in. Also price lock, which means that our price does not change. Say it's a whole life, our price never changes. Our price is locked in forever. The third one being double accident. Unfortunately, there's a lot of crazy things that happen nowadays and some crazy people, and accidents do happen. So it's good to know that ours does pay double for an accident if it happens.
Potential accident in a home or a motor vehicle accident, is that correct?
Correct. Yep. Every policy is different, but generally accidental deaths are pertain to accident and not for natural causes. The fourth benefit of building cash value. I'm going over this, and I say, our whole life policies or our universal life policies, they build cash value. That's a savings account. That's your money that's sitting there. If you choose, later on, if you need access to funds, obviously we don't recommend you ever take money out of the policy, but it is there. Some people like that it builds some cash. Some people don't care. So it's there. And the fourth benefit is the local agent. I stress the local agent more than any of the benefits because the local agent, I say, if you ever need to change your bank account or your beneficiary or your phone number or your address, anything, you just call a local agent and it gets handled immediately. Instead of having to call a 1-800 number and sit on hold for 30 minutes, you're just doing it immediately. And so by calling a local agent, we just handle it for them. And I snap my fingers like that it is instantaneous because the local agent handles it for them. And I always say this too, even more important than minor changes is when you do eventually pass away and your family is there grieving, do you want them to have to call a 1-800 number and sit on hold for a while and actually have the company mail them claim forms and them have to mail them death certificates and that kind of thing? Or would you rather take the burden off of them at that time so they can focus on grieving and celebrating and coordinating family and those kind of things, to actually have a local agent there where your family calls a local agent? The local agent can coordinate everything with the funeral home, can coordinate everything with the insurance company, and can coordinate everything with the family. And we just handle it all for them. And you're able to actually get a check in their hands within a much quicker amount of time. And so that's one way of stressing how much they need a local agent. And so those 5 benefits that we're going over, and I'm writing them down one at a time: coverage locked in, price lock, double for an accident, builds cash value, and local agent. Now, I'm not going to put Matt on the spot. Matt just joined us, but we're going over the 4-step appointment process. I've actually put it down on paper and all the questions that I ask and how I go through it. And so I'm going to email this out to everyone as soon as we get done. And so the reason I did this, Matt, is because, it was all in my head, and a lot of agents wanted to know what I said and when I said it. And so now, anyone can sell anything. They're ready. Any questions on the 5 benefits? And I write down the quotes. I don't show them the quotes, as everyone in this conference room has seen. I go over the 5 benefits and stress those 5 benefits. And as soon as I get done showing them those 5 benefits, I say, which one do you like the best? And then I shut up and I let them choose. Because if we can get them to choose a benefit, the chances of them choosing an option to buy goes up.
They're making the decision.
Exactly. They're making the decision along the way. Exactly. So I get a lot of the times they'll choose the price lock or the fact that the coverage is locked in, because not all policies are like that. And so I will say, you know what, you're right. Most people choose those options. And I'll kind of agree with them on whatever option they choose. Sometimes they say, well, a local agent's extremely important. You know what? You're right. A local agent is extremely important. I'm glad you see the value. And so I'm asking them which one they like the best. Any questions so far? Any questions over picking the 3 quotes, giving them the 5 benefits one at a time, going over them, and then getting them to choose the benefit? Which one do you like the best? The next portion is actually giving them the 3 quote options, the low, medium, and high, and explaining each option. Like when Tom and I went out the other day, I said, okay, I'm just going to make these up. I don't remember exactly what they were, but here's a $100,000 20-year term for $58 a month. Or there's a guaranteed universal life for $50,000 to age 90 for $70. So there's the middle option. Or the high option is, here's a guaranteed universal life for $100,000 till age 90 for $111 a month. I explain each option. Very simple to do. Which one do you like the best? And I wait and I let them pick. I shut up, I'm silent, and I let them choose.
I notice every time someone chooses, you immediately follow with, that's the one I thought you would pick. Is that intentional, or?
It is, I guess. It is. That's a good point. That's something I didn't put on paper.
Does that matter? Whatever they choose, that's what you thought they were going to pick?
Yeah.
Okay.
Generally, they pick the one we think they're going to pick anyway, but not always. Sometimes they may even say, that's a great option, that's the one I thought you would pick. Or, if they picked a option that I didn't think they should pick, then I may ask them why.
Okay.
What brought you to picking that option? But generally, all I do is I let them pick one of the three options, and I give them three options. I explain each option. Which one do you like the best? They pick. I instantly pull out the application. What's your full legal name? They've picked an option, so they've chose to do business with us. So I'm actually diving in and choosing. I'm getting the application out once they've chose, and I'm asking what's their full legal name, and I'm starting the application process at that point because they have chose to buy at that point. Any questions on that?
If they choose like the double indemnity or the accident, do you say, okay, that's going to be a little bit more, or
No.
you don't go ahead and add that in there and say, oh, that's
So Cody, you
too much
wouldn't
more?
you wouldn't finalize it with that last question, Frank here.
Yeah.
You wouldn't finalize it, so they say that's when you thought they would pick, and then you just immediately go to the application. You don't say good choice, or let's go ahead and get started now with the application.
So something similar to that. Sometimes it varies. Yeah, sometimes we'll just say that's what I thought you would pick. Like I've done it a few times, probably quite a bit. That's a very good choice. That's what I thought you would pick. Well, let's go ahead and get the application process started. What's your full legal name? And so it's just you want it to be brief, and you want to transition quickly. You don't want a lot of dead air or a lot of chitter chatter, and so you want to transition straight from them picking into you filling out the application. So it's a great question. And later on, after they choose, I'll like Tim asked, I will say, okay, well you can add the double for accident because the policy you pick doesn't include that, and it's an extra $5 if you want to do that. So that's something I do on occasion. If it's something that's important to them. Most of the time it's not, but sometimes it can be. The other clauses I may use if they picked, but then they were like, well, I'm not 100% ready to move forward. I may say, well, you need it, you want it, you can afford it, and I can tell you're going to purchase in the future. So let's take time out of the equation and let's see if we can get you approved. Sound fair enough? And they generally tend to move forward. Another thing, they may say, well, leave it with me and let me think about it. We don't do callbacks. You have all the information that you need to make an informed decision. Why don't you just take it? And so normally it's one of those three. I'm asking them which option they like the best out of those three, or I'm using kind of the timing close or the callback close. I may use others, but these are generally the most popular three. And so that's why I've just put these three on here. So everyone can sound like a sales superstar just by having this with them on an appointment. Doesn't matter, sales experience, insurance experience, anyone can take this. And as long as they get in front of people, they know how to get from hi, my name is Cody, thanks for allowing me in your home, to thank you for your business, we're going to take phenomenal care of you. So, any questions on the presenting and closing? We started with warming up, we transitioned to fact finding, and then we've transitioned to presenting and closing. And how I come up with the quotes, how I show them the 5 benefits. And when I'm showing them the 5 benefits, I'm building value. And when I always say that, I don't know why my hands go up in the air, because I want to stress the fact that I'm building value and that it's important. Because that's the reason I do the 5 benefits. Because not only because I want to build value, but I also want to find out what's important to them. And that's increasingly important, because when they're buying over the phone or over the internet or through the mail, they're not getting the local agent, and someone is not stressing the benefits and the value to them. And so they are just purchasing, just out of influx. And so if we can build value of our product, the benefits that we offer, and us, why wouldn't they do business with us? And I've never lost to a computer or the telephone or the mail. It just doesn't happen. Any questions on the presenting and closing? The last portion is wrapping up and cooling down. It's a pretty simple part. You're confirming the questions. Or you're asking confirming questions. Are you happy with your decision today? This is after you filled out the application and you've got all the information and you've got a voided check or whatever else we need. Are you happy with your decision? Is there a reason why you wouldn't keep this for the rest of your life? After I ask a couple of confirming questions, then I move on to referrals. Who is one person that can also use our help? Who just popped in your head when I asked you that question? And generally, always, at least one person pops in their head. And if they give a name, someone told me this the other day, if they give a name, then we can also move. I think it was actually, I'm going to give you credit, Miss Vicki. I think this was you the other day at the training day. That if they give us one name and they say, well, you could say, well, did anyone else pop up into your head? Or was it just that one person? So, there you go, Miss Vicki. You got the credit. And then I'm moving into, after I'm asking confirming questions and I'm asking for referrals, then I'm moving into explaining the process. Thank you for your trust and for doing business with us today. What we're going to do now is we're going to take the application back to our office. The reason I do this is so there's no confusion when we leave. I'm going to take the application back to our office. We're going to fax it to the insurance company. If they're buying a term, I'm going to have the nurse out here within the next week in the morning. What day works best? And I'm going to get a time for that. I'm going to say, once the insurance company gets your paramed, they'll determine if there's any medical records needed. And if it's a term, it may take, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks, depending on how quick we get things done. I'm going to do everything on my end to get it approved at the rate we want and in the amount of time we want. Do you have any questions? I can give them my business card and ask them if they have any questions. And so after you explain the process and what's going to happen when you leave, you say, do you have any questions? You actually make sure that if they have any questions, they get answered. And you give them a business card.
You have to do the drop ticket stuff on the...
No, you don't. We do all paper for a while with all new agents. We're going to do all paper applications. I don't do the drop ticket because the drop ticket or the tel app, they have to do a 30 to 40 minute telephone interview over the phone. And if we're going to see them in person, I don't want them to do a phone interview with the client. So, especially for terms. If it's whole life, hey, I'm going to fax this back to Foresters, and you'll get a policy within the next 7 to 10 days. Do you have any questions? Here's my business card. And then after, see if they have any questions and give my business card, then I'm going to transition into cooling down off of business. What do you like to do for fun? Do you have any big plans coming up? And so you're cooling down off of business, and you're moving, and you're getting up and you're leaving, and you're just kind of the warm-up stage done in reverse right before you leave. Any questions on this wrapping up or cooling down? All this will be on paper. You're asking for confirming questions. You're asking for referrals. You're explaining the process. Ask them if they have any questions. Giving them business cards, and then cooling down. All this will be on paper.
Cody, Frank, with a quick question.
Yes, sir.
When they provide a referral, are we to abide by HIPAA? And then what's the should we be careful? Can we say, oh, Mrs. Jones, when we called this referral, do we have to be aware of HIPAA so we violate anything by mentioning this other person signed up with life insurance?
No, yeah, we won't be violating HIPAA at all. I really don't know how HIPAA pertains here, to be honest. All you're going to do is they're going to give you a name and number. You're going to call that name and number, and say, Mr. Jones just bought some life insurance for me. I was hoping I could drop off a free quote. When can it come by? You're just trying to set another appointment or trying to see what they have. And so, yeah, that won't pertain here at all. Everything's good there.
Okay, just to ask.
Perfect. Good question. Anything else? Jeff, Vicki? Tim, Ted, Tom, Lowell, Matt?
I don't have any questions.
Okay. Jeff, did you say you had something or you didn't?
No, I said I don't have any questions.
Okay, perfect. Thank you guys. Well, we have several other people that weren't able to be on the call today, so I'm going to be adding this to YouTube pretty soon, to the Agent Mentor YouTube channel, which is it's my YouTube channel that I add all the information to. I'll be adding this soon. If you have any questions, please call me. We're going to all meet today on a one-on-one basis to go over last week's activity. Thank you guys for joining the training call. Hope everyone has a phenomenal week. Everybody needs to pick some of these stud agents here in the office, pick their brain to see what they're doing and how they're successful and running a lot of appointments. So thank you guys for joining the call. Have a phenomenal week, and we will talk soon. See you guys.